Well, hello there, guys. Welcome back for episode 16, or should I say, lesson 16 of the Microsoft AZ-800 course. Today, we're going to be talking about synchronizing your on premises Active Directory with your Microsoft Azure Active Directory in the cloud using the AD Connect tool. Alright folks, let me start you guys off by talking about Active Directory synchronization in general. So in other words, I'm going to give you guys a bit of an overview. So let's start off with a question, and that question is, what is hybrid Active Directory? Now I'm sure by now you guys know what an Active Directory on premises is. I mean, that's obviously when you've got your Active Directory server on premises in your house or in your office. It's probably going to be in your office, let's face it. And if you've got a cloud Active Directory, that's ideally where all of us want to end up at one day. That is when you've got your stuff completely online in the cloud on some platform like Microsoft Azure. Now, what the heck is hybrid Active Directory? That, my friends, is when you've got your Active Directory on premises and at the same time, you've got Active Directory in the cloud on some platform like Azure, and you have now synchronized these two Active Directories with one another. So if someone were to go on premises and create something like a user account, that account ideally would synchronize into the cloud Active Directory and vice versa. So if someone were to go on to your cloud Active Directory and do something like create a user account, that account would ideally synchronize back down to your on-premises Active Directory. So you do not necessarily need to know Azure to be able to maintain this environment. You just need someone to set it up for you. And it does help to obviously know Azure in the end of the day. But if you are one of those people that only knows server on premises, not in the world. Once someone has set this up for you, you can just go and do it the old-fashioned way on your Active Directory on premises, and nobody would be the wiser. How cool is that? Now, what tool do you use to do the synchronization between your on-premises Active Directory and your Azure Active Directory? Now, yes, there's a tool you need to go and use this. It's not just some hocus pocus that's going to be taking place. There's an actual tool you need to go and download. What is that tool? It is the AD Connect tool. Obviously, the AD stands for Active Directory. Now that tool can be accessed via the Azure portal. There's actually a nice little link there on the portal which I'll show you guys, but you do not necessarily need to go and use that link on the portal. Now just to show you guys where the heck this is, let me quickly switch over to the Azure portal and show you where you can find this tool on the Azure portal. Alrighty, here we are on the Azure portal. So how you get to the Azure Active Directory is up to you. I'm just going to go and use this nice little shortcut there because why not? I'm going to go click on that sucker. Once you get here, it obviously opens what we've talked about before, known as the blade for Azure Active Directory. Now in this blade, we have spoken about users and we've spoken about groups in the previous lesson, being lesson 15 of this course. But if you were to go and scroll down just a little bit in this list, you would find there's actually a tab here called Azure AD Connect. Now that tool is definitely going to become very useful going forward when it comes to your synchronization. So I'm going to go click on that tab there. Here we go. So at the moment what we'll see is there's pretty much nothing going on here, and that is no surprise because obviously we have never done any form of synchronization yet when it comes to our cloud domain or our on-premises domain. So if you wanted to go and download this tool, one way would be for you to go and click on this little link there that says download Azure AD Connect. Now, once we go and click on that little link there, it's actually in fact going to take you to a different website which is not on the Azure portal. At the moment, you guys will see in the URL at the top, it says portal.azure.com. But if I were to go and click on that link, and let's do that, it's going to take us to Microsoft.com. Here we go. Microsoft.com, as you guys can see. Now, you can actually achieve the same result by going to your favorite search engine of your choice, typing Azure AD Connect into your search engine, running a search, and believe it or not, it's actually going to take you to the exact same website. You do not necessarily need to be on the Azure portal to download this tool. You're still going to have to go to the Azure portal at some point in time because there's a few things you need to go and configure there. One of which is to go and create a global synchronization account. More on that in just a moment. So when you scroll down on this little web page, there's a little download button there. And if you were to go and click on that download button, it's going to go and download the Azure AD Connect tool. It's approximately 153, yeah, I think it's 153 megabytes. It wasn't always that big. Sometimes, I think many moons ago, it actually was a lot smaller. It was like 50 megabytes or even smaller. And as the years went by, it obviously got bigger and bigger. And maybe by the time you watch this video, it might be even bigger then. Now, if you go and look at the instructions Microsoft gives us for this tool, they tell you to always go and download and use the latest version of this tool. Now, I'm going to go and flat out disagree with that statement because this tool, what is its purpose? Its purpose is to synchronize your on-premise Active Directory with the one in the cloud, which means it's going to connect to the internet. Now, I've tried this over the years many times before, so I can honestly tell you this still happens. I've tried it again today. What's going to happen is, even if you have an old version of this tool that you downloaded like 2 or 3 years ago that was just lying somewhere in your PC, that tool will automatically still run the latest version. You do not need to go and download the latest version. You can do that if you really want to, but at the end of the day, all that's going to happen is if you run that old version, it's going to just take maybe 5, 10, or 20 seconds longer because it's basically just going to go and update itself. That's it. So, I mean, whether it updates itself or you go to the website and go download the latest version, it doesn't really matter. My personal opinion is if it's just going to go and update itself, that's actually going to go quicker because you just go click on the file you already have and it's simply just going to go and update itself and run the latest version. So it really doesn't matter. It's your choice. My recommendation, just use the one you already have if you happen to already have one. Alright, so I'm not going to go and download this tool because I'm not on my server at the moment. And I did actually pre-download this little file onto my server, which I'm going to be doing synchronization for you guys later in a little demo later in this video. So stay tuned for that. So let's go back to the presentation. All right, so back to the presentation we are. So I've got another question for you guys. Do I need to do something first before I start the actual synchronization? Yes, you do. It's not a matter of wham, bam, there you go and you synchronize. Absolutely not. There's quite a few things you need to go and do. And the list I'm going to provide you guys with in just a few seconds is not necessarily everything, but that's I suppose you can call it the main things. One of the first and main things you're going to need to go and do is you will need to go and create yourself a global admin account. This is now besides the usual one. Create yourself a global admin account on the Azure Active Directory. Now, the purpose of this global admin account is to synchronize to your on-premises Active Directory. It's not intended to be used by any human. So you might log on with a human of it at least once just to change the temporary password, but that is about the extent of it. Other than that, this account is not to be used by a human being. What you call this account does not matter, but myself and Microsoft normally tends to call this account Sync for synchronization. So S-Y-N-C, Sync for synchronization. But you can go and call it whatever you want. So I'm going to go back to the Azure portal for just a second here. All right, here we are back on the Azure portal. Let me scroll back up to my users. Oh, Steve is still there from the previous episode. Hi, Steve. How you doing, brah? All right, so what we're going to need to go and do here is we're going to go and create ourselves a new user for the purposes of synchronization. Now, why do we need to do that? When you run that little tool, we're going to run that on the server, by the way, it's going to ask you for 2 admin accounts. The very first thing it's going to ask you is for a global admin account on the Azure Active Directory, which is where we are now. That is to prove you are a member or an employee of that organization or that domain. And not just that you're a member employee, but that you're authorized to go and pull this stunt, which is synchronization. You're not just up to some sort of shenanigans. And right after you provide a global admin account for the Active Directory in the cloud, it's going to ask you for another admin account. This time, you can probably guess it's going to be for your Active Directory on premises. And for the same reasons, to make sure you're an employee or a member of that Active Directory or that domain, and that you're not up to some sort of shenanigans, and that you are indeed authorized to go and pull this kind of stunt. So I'm going to go and call this, use this Sync for synchronization. Sync. Doesn't really matter. Sync. All right. Generate the password. Really doesn't matter. I'm just going to say, you know what? Let's just leave it like that for now. Well, I suppose I could go and change it. It doesn't really matter. I think InWizard is going to ask us to change the password anyway. So, interesting fact, and I'm not sure if I've said this before in this course. I don't think I have. Normally, when you ran that wizard about 2-3 years ago, if you did not change this temporary password, the wizard would tell you need to go and change the password. And it was a bit of a pain in the neck because I would have to stop the whole process there, log back into the portal as that user, using the temporary password obviously, change the temporary password. It's going to ask you to choose a new one. And once you've done that, you need to go and continue the wizard or start it all over again. Now, however, in the wizard, if it sees you have not changed the password, it actually allows you in the wizard to go and change that temporary password to a permanent one, all within the convenience of the wizard. And you gotta love Microsoft with updating stuff from time to time. So I'm gonna leave this for now, but I should probably just make a note of what this password is. Let me just go and copy that into my clipboard. I am gonna need that. Here we go. And this needs to be a global admin. At the moment, sync is just the user, so that's going to be no good to us. So let's go and click on user. Give this person some more privilege. We're specifically looking for the global admin role today. Here we go, global administrator. Select, and that should do the trick. Create, that should take about 2 seconds. 1, 2, done. All right. Sync has been created. So we have pretty much set up everything we need to do on the Azure portal side. There's not much that needs to be done here. And eventually when we run this wizard, all the accounts on our on-premises Active Directory will synchronize to this Active Directory here. And you'll notice in most cases these icons will look different. The description is going to be different as well. It's going to tell you it's a directory synchronized account. The account will look different. Heck, there might even be a picture there. Now, how long the actual synchronization takes depends on a number of variables. It depends on your internet speed. It depends on how big the Active Directory is. It depends on how stable your connection is. And the list goes on and on and on. So we can obviously talk about this all day. All right, so getting back to the presentation. So we've done step 1 there, which is make a global admin account. Step 2, and I'm not going to do that now, is to clean up your on-premises Active Directory. Now, in my case, I do have an on-premises Active Directory, which I'm going to simulate for you guys in just a moment. And quite frankly, there's literally just like 2 or 3 user accounts on there. It doesn't matter if it's 2 or 200 or 2000. This is just to serve as an example of how to go through the procedure and what it's actually going to look like. I don't want to go and synchronize 2000 accounts and have us wait all day in this video. Obviously, nobody wants that. But in a real life situation, you are going to want to go and clean up your on-premises Active Directory. Any user accounts that might have been corrupt, you need to go and fix those or get rid of those. Smurf accounts also, get rid of those. Now, for those of you that don't know what a Smurf account is, it's not an account that's blue. I can't say that with a straight face. I always have this picture in my mind of blue Smurfs. It's got absolutely nothing to do with blue Smurfs. We call something a Smurf account when that account is no longer in use by someone or something. So this could be a user account for someone that might have left the organization. This person might have resigned. They might have unfortunately passed away. You know, it could be any number of reasons. The point here is the account is not in use. So any account that's corrupt, any account that's a Smurf account, etc., get rid of that. You're going to have to do some spring cleaning, in other words. Now, the way we do that, not the only way, is one of the main tools we like to go and use is a tool called the ID Fix tool. Feel free to go and look that up on Google or a platform of your choice. That nifty little tool is very useful when it comes to cleaning up your Active Directory environment. Just FYI, that is most likely going to be a question in the exam. So watch out for that. What tool do we use most commonly to go and fix corrupt accounts? That's normally the part they like to ask in the exam, is specifically about corrupt accounts. And the tool we use for that is the ID Fix tool. Lastly, and we've already somewhat spoken about this, you need to go and download the AD Connect tool. Download the tool. Now, we've already shown you guys where to go and do that. I have already done that. So, All that's left to do here is for me to go and actually switch over to my on-premises server. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. So let me quickly switch over to that. And here we are on my on-premises server. So the nudge, nudge, wink, wink is to simulate the fact that I already have a server here. Now this is a server I've used in some of my other videos. So on this server, I have the Active Directory installed. You can see I've got ADDS installed, Active Directory Domain Services here. I've got DHCP installed, not that it matters in this case. I've got DNS installed, not that it matters. The only one we're focused on right now is the fact that I've got ADDS installed. So that role is a role you install on premises on an on-premises server, whether it's physical or virtual. And that role is effectively going to install the Active Directory software on premises, which allows you to go and create user accounts and group policies and all that kinds of jazz. Now, if I go to the top right hand side here on my server manager to tools specifically, and we've probably done this in one of our previous videos, I'm going to show you that we do in fact have users there. So I'm going to go to users and computers. Just give it a second. And there we go. So I've created some branches here for some of my other videos. So we've got New York, Paris, and Tokyo. And then within Tokyo, specifically the IT department, you see I have 2 people there. Now, the majority of these other branches are pretty much completely empty. That's besides the point. So the ones we're going to be focusing on today is the fact that I've got a branch office here, or a GPO. I suppose you can call that a fancy folder. It's a branch office called Tokyo. I've got a department in Tokyo called IT, and more specifically, I've got 2 users here, one called Billy, one called Sarah. So the goal here is to see if we can synchronize Billy and Sarah to our Cloud Active Directory. So I'm going to minimize this. I've taken the liberty of pre-downloading the Azure AD Connect tool. 153 megabytes. Now it says 152 if I hover my mouse cursor there, but it's actually 153 megabytes. So Microsoft suggests you go and drop that tool on your root Active Directory. Now the word root means your main cheese, your main server. So if you've got more than one Active Directory, your root would be your parent server, the main one you would find at head office in most cases. And that's what Microsoft suggests. I'm going to tell you otherwise. It does not necessarily need to be there. It can pretty much be on any server, quite frankly. So I'm going to go and run this on my root because this is actually my only server here today. So I'm going to go and run this little tool here. I'm going to go and double click on it. It's not actually an installation. It's more just a thing that's going to pretty much run itself. So let's go and do that and see what it looks like. You can see it just added an icon there to the desktop and the wizard just opens for us. Alright, so do we agree? It's not like we really have a choice. Like I've said before, it's like getting married. We don't really know what we're getting into until it's too late. Alright, so I'm going to go and click on agree. Don't really have a choice now, do I? Continue. Now, something interesting about this page, I know a lot of you guys may or may not have some sort of IT experience. And if you do have some sort of IT experience, you're probably gonna want to go and click on the button that says customize. I mean, let's face it, most of you guys do that. Whenever you need to go and install a game, a program, or whatever, what do most of us do? We go and click on customize and we never go and click on express. Why do IT people or gamers do that? Because when we click on express, you probably are, used to the fact that they always install all kinds of nonsense you don't need. You're probably going to see some sort of toolbar suddenly popping up on your PC. You'll see that your home page in your browser has changed. Suddenly you've got all kinds of extra programs installed. You've got some sort of antivirus installed you didn't want. You already had one. You've got some new browser installed. Some new I don't know. There's all kinds of nonsense that gets configured and installed in your PC. So for that reason, you guys will probably want to go and click on customize. Now, I'm going to tell you guys to actually resist that urge. In most cases, go and click on express settings. When you're going to go and click on customize when it comes to this is if your company has more than one forest. Most companies don't, and if you do, may God be with you, because that's going to be a lot of work. So if you have more than one forest, or if your company has a situation where they have an ADFS server, Active Directory Federation Services. Now, if you have a server like that, specifically on premises, you're going to also want to go and click on customize. So unless you have more than one forest, or if you have a situation where you have an ADFS, you are gonna want to go and click on Express Settings. Trust me, a lot quicker, a lot easier. I'm gonna go click on Use Express Settings. Now, the first thing it wants from me is an admin account. Which one? That is going to be a global admin account on the Azure Active Directory. So that's going to be the account we made. What did we call it? We called it sync at. And now I need to go and look what my domain is. Now, normally this part would be very easy if you have a legit domain in a company in the cloud, because you would literally just go and type in your domain there. It's going to be whatever, at whatever your company's name is, .com or .co dot whatever your company's extension is or your country's extension is. Now, in my case, I'm using a trial subscription, so it's probably going to be a very long, inconvenient, unprofessional name. So let me quickly switch back to the portal and go check what it is. All right, here we are back on a portal, and where is the user account? So we know it starts with sync. We know it as an @ sign, obviously. It's going to be BurningIceTech, and then what is the extension? So I'm going to hover my mouse there. It says BurningIceTech 25 outlook.onmicrosoft.com. Woof, that's a long extension, isn't it? All right, so let's see if we can try and memorize that. I'm going to go back to the server and try and type that into the best of my ability. So it was BurningIceTech 25 outlook.onmicrosoft.com. Oh dear Lord, I hope that's it, because dang, that's a mouthful. Alright, what is that password? I wrote it down here next to me earlier. It was XABO7925. Alright, and that should do it. I'm going to go click on next. And if I am correct, it's probably going to detect that that's a temporary password and most likely prompt me to go and change it to a permanent password within the wizard. Let's see if that actually happens. And there we go. So it's popping up with a window. This is not something you would normally see. The reason I'm seeing it is because it wants me to change that temporary password to a more permanent one. So I'm going to have to sign in as that user to the portal here at least once and change the password. So I'm going to have to go and basically retype that whole shenanigans in there. So let's see if we can do that. At least now I've got an example here, so I don't have to go back to the portal. BurningIceTech 25, what was it? Outlook.onmicrosoft.com. There we go. Next. What was that password again? I said it was XABO7925. Sign in. Let's see if that's the right account. I'm hoping it's not the other global account. And there we go. Check it out. I told you guys it's going to allow you to change the password within the wizard. Now, this really saves me a lot of inconvenience. I can't tell you how many times I've forgotten to change this password. Many of the Microsoft courses I train has some sort of synchronization involved. And whenever I get to this part, I can't tell how many times I've told my students that, oh gosh, guys, I'm sorry, I forgot to change the password. And I have to stop the whole course there, log back into the portal, sign out as the main user, sign in as this user, change the password. And it takes a long time. Now, in the convenience of this little wizard, I can just do it right here, right now. Why not? So I'm going to go and do that. 7925. And then I'm just going to go and choose a new password. Here we go. Sign in. We've seen that password too many times. Just because I'm using the standard Microsoft password, which is capital P, small a, 55w.rd. And Microsoft's seen that password too many times. Because of all the Microsoft trainers that use it. Sign in. Let's see if that one works. I basically just added a 1, 2, 3, 4 at the back. That should do it. Next. Next. Just going to go over all the defaults. Alright, I don't want to go and log into the actual portal itself now. Let's see if I can use the new password here. No, it's not done yet. Alright, it was timing out because I think I clicked on the wrong button there. You know, there's way too many filters there. So I'm just going to go and type a new password and try again and see if it goes through the second time. Looks like something's happening. So that extra window was popping up. You know, I just needed to change the password. But anything that happens after that, you can actually just close it and then just go back to the window and just type in a new password. Alright, so now it's asking us again for an admin account, this time on the on-premises Active Directory. So the first one here was for the Azure Active Directory. Now it's asking you for the on-premises Active Directory. As I've said before, this is just to make sure you are indeed a member or an employee of both of these Active Directories, and that you are indeed authorized to go and do this thing called synchronization between these two Active Directories, and that you are not up to some sort of shenanigans like trying to steal one of the Active Directories from one of these companies, that you are indeed part of one of them. So I need to go and try first figure out what is my domain. I think it's burningicetech.com. Let me just double check it. Yes, burningicetech.com. So let's just go back there. BurningIceTech.com. I'm just going to go and use the normal administrator account, not something you should try and do. Hopefully I remember the password, otherwise it's going to be awkward and I'm going to have to go and reset it because I don't always remember these passwords. There's way too many of them. Let's say next. Looks like it's going through. That's a good sign. Here we go. I'm not going to do any of that right now. I'm just going to say continue without matching that. Next, next, next. So start the synchronization process when the configuration completes. Yes, that's not going to take too long. So we're going to say install. And let's just minimize this in the background. Now, while this is busy, folks, what I want to point out here is during the initial synchronization, this could possibly take very long, like I've said before. It depends on your bandwidth, in other words, your internet speed, depends on how big your Active Directory is, and it depends on whether you've got any corrupt accounts, Smurf accounts, any of those things. So, yeah. Now, just because you don't have any Smurf accounts or corrupt accounts now, doesn't mean you won't have any going forward. So maybe the whole process works now, and then a month down the line, 2 months down the line, you suddenly get an account on premises that becomes corrupt. Now, what's going to happen if that happens? It's going to break the synchronization in most cases. So when that happens, you will have to figure out what account is the corrupt one, delete it or fix it, and then go and rerun the whole process. Now, if the synchronization doesn't want to work, ways you can go and fix this is to sometimes just turn it off and turn it back on. I kid you not. I know it sounds like a famous IT joke, but I'm not even joking. Turn it off, turn it back on. If that does not work, you might have to uninstall the Active Directory AD Connect tool and reinstall it. Now, uninstalling it doesn't take very long. It actually takes about 2 minutes to 5 minutes to uninstall it. Reinstalling it also doesn't take very long if you know what the usernames and passwords are that was originally used. Now, if you are the person that set this up, it shouldn't be a problem if you are the person that did. All of that, you should know all the passwords, unless this was a very long time ago. Then you might have to go and reset some passwords first. So what I don't want you guys to go and do is, during the initial synchronization, there's a tool called the scheduler. Now in there, you can go and choose how often a synchronization takes place, what objects go and synchronize. So if something is being synchronized that you don't like, you can go and choose it for it not to be synchronized. If something is currently not being synchronized that you do want to synchronize, you can go and choose that there. Now, please do not go and fiddle with the scheduler while the thing is still busy or before the initial synchronization is done. Don't do that. That is how you break the system and you're going to start all over again. Let it finish the first initial synchronization, and once that is done, then you can go and fiddle with it and choose how often it needs to synchronize, what needs to synchronize, and what should not synchronize. Alright, so I'm going to leave this thing running for a bit, and there's going to be a bit of a time lapse here because this thing is going to take very long possibly. It's only 2 accounts, but it does take a while to set itself up. Let me quickly circle back to the Azure portal, just check if it's maybe not showing those accounts yet. So before I do a time lapse, let me just quickly circle to the Azure portal and see if we don't see those accounts yet. So let's switch over. Alright, so here we are in the Azure portal. I don't see anything yet at first glance. Let me just go and refresh this. I'm just going to go and reload everything. Let's just check it out. If we see anything just yet, nope, not yet. Alright, so I'm going to leave it here. Let's do a bit of a time lapse and then I will resume this in, well, for you guys it's just going to be a few seconds. For me it's going to be probably a few minutes. So see you guys in a few seconds.
One eternity later.
Alright, so for you guys it must have been just 1 or 2 seconds, but for me this was, I don't know, between 5 and 10 minutes of waiting. So there we go, finally done on my side, thank God for that. So that's more or less what you can expect to see at the end of the synchronization. I'm going to go click on exit, and I'm going to circle back to the Azure portal for you guys. Let's quickly switch over. All right, and this is what it looks like on the Azure portal. So it might be done, it might not be done. So it could be that it's still going to pull through some of them. So you can already see some accounts pulling through. Some of these names I don't recognize. So these are probably names that were in those other branch offices. You would remember we had a Tokyo and we had a New York office there and all that. So 10 to 1, if I were to go and open those, I would most likely find these users in there as well. So that's more or less what you can expect to see. So if you do synchronize and it's done, and you go back to the Azure portal and you don't see anything, or you don't see all users immediately, don't panic. That is normal. Sometimes it takes a few minutes, sometimes half an hour or an hour for the users to start reflecting here. So just keep refreshing and wait. Patience is key here. So I've seen quite often with a lot of my students, when they do this, they tend to freak out in the beginning, like, where's my users? I did everything perfectly, step by step, and I don't see it. It's like, okay, but did you wait? No. So wait. So patience is key here, guys. If you don't sign the users you're looking for here, please just wait and the users should start appearing here. All right, guys. So I hope you've learned something. If you have, please give the video a like to let me know that you've enjoyed the video or that you've learned something. And if you'd like to stay up to date of when I release new videos like this one, specifically for this series or any other series, remember to hit that subscribe button. And then, like usual, lastly, just a special shout out and thank you to my Patreon sponsors. And would you believe PayPal sponsors? So, yeah, very generous donation. So, thank you very much for that, guys. I do appreciate it. It does make it possible for me to make more content like this. And any of you guys would like to go and donate as well, you're more than welcome to find that information in the video description down below. All right, folks, stay frosty. I'll see you on the next lesson of the Microsoft AZ-800 course. Bye, guys.
If you love me, let me know. If you don't, then let me